Volga in conversation with Vayu Naidu. Can we welcome all the speakers with a round round of applause? And this is a session of Women Uninterrupted series. Over to you, Vayu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Little closer. Okay. Now can you hear me? Good. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a post-prandial session on Sita. Interpretations of. I am so delighted to be sitting on a Sita panel with two people who I would consider my heartland and homeland in terms of both the epic and, in the case of one, my mother tongue. So, firstly, could I introduce to you, with great pride of the mother tongue, Volga. So, Arshia is sandwiched by the two V's. Otherwise, her name is Popuri Lalita Kumari. She is a noted feminist writer in Telugu. Her nearly 50 publications include many novels, and when you do buy her book, which is The Liberation of Sita, you will get to know her entire list of work. I don't wish to take up too much time at this point. She has received many awards, and among these are the Nandi Award for the Best Story Writer, Government of Andhra Pradesh, Best Woman Writer Award, Telugu University, Sushila Narayan Reddy Award, and the Sahitya Academy Award in 2015. She is currently the Executive Chairperson of Asmita Resource Center for Women in Hyderabad. A big hand for Volga. Arshia. It's very difficult in these kind of situations to actually introduce Arshia because she has been such a strong inspiration in my sort of working life and reckoning of the Ramayana. So that's my personal tribute of great admiration to, I think, the best Sanskrit translator of Ramayana, and who makes that brilliant epic so relevant, so lyrical to us even now. But very quickly, Arshia has translated the Valmiki Ramayana and has been published indeed as a Penguin classic. So I call her the classic, and she's published the classic. Her other works on the epic include Lost Loves, Exploring Rama's Anguish, and Uttara, the book Answers. That's what we're going to be dealing with today. So could I fold on that? But she co-founded and runs the Sangam House International Writers Residency Program outside Bangalore. Once again, when you're getting your books signed, you will read more of all the other things she's published. But for this session in the afternoon, we're looking at Uttara and the book Answers. And, oh, I forgot myself. Isn't that the best thing to do as a writer and a storyteller? I'm Vayu Naidu, and yes, I'm a oral storyteller. It's very difficult when you're talking about it to say I'm an epic storyteller. People think you've added the adjective to yourself. That's not true at all. But the reason why I'm sitting here with these two illustrious souls is my work was book published by Penguin called Sita's Ascent, and it's looking at perspectives, or rather the fictionalizing of Sita through different perspectives of other characters. And my most recent book is The Sari of Surya Vilas, and yesterday, because we had a bit of a crash in the bookstore, no books were sold. So I hope you will think again. Okay, let's get on with Sita, and I'm going to address, and please, we're going to share this as a conversation. This is not an audition, it's not a viva, so pitch in. Volga, we were talking earlier in terms of your work. It's very much a Telugu source, and that's one of the things we want to look at. There's a Telugu source of the Sita, and there's the Sanskrit translation of Sita. And Volga was wanting to tell us about what were the themes that really attracted her in what she wants to talk about the liberation of Sita.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Vayu Naidu, for setting this this discussion. And I wrote these stories. There are 5 short stories. Sita as the main character in each story, and different characters interacting with Sita. The story and everything was true to Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, and also Telugu Ramayanas. As you asked about Telugu Ramayanas, there are 1 or 2 Telugu Ramayanas. One was written by a woman called Molla. Molla Ramayana is very popular in Telugu language and read by many as a text. Molla Ramayana is very popular in Telugu. But she at large is loyal to Valmiki. And Bhaskar Ramayana is also like that. But in the modern times, many people, many writers pick characters and incidents from Ramayana and they retold them in a different way. For example, in 1890 or so, 1890th year, Tripuraneni Ramaswamy Chaudhary, he wrote Shambhukavada. Shambhukavada, you all know how a Sudra, Shambhuka, was doing penance and Rama killed him because of his caste. So he questioned Rama's authority to kill Shambhuka, and is it justifiable? And then one great writer of Telugu, Chelam, he wrote one story, Sita Agni Pariksha. In that story, he is very radical writer. So what he wrote was Sita thinking that more than Rama, Ravana loves her because he staked everything for her. He staked his entire family, his kingdom, his own life. So when Rama asked her to go into the fire, she simply told that you never loved me. Ravana loved me more because of these things. So I am entering into his fire. So such a radical story that created tremendous impact on the society. But Telugu society was very radical at that time and now also. So there is nobody complained about this story. So many stories came, like Kodavati Kutumbarao, another great writer. He wrote Ashokavanam. He questioned how this beautiful Ashokavanam was destroyed by Hanuman. So like this, some writers retold Ramayana stories. That there is a tradition of retelling Ramayana in Telugu. So from that tradition, I tried to explore Sita from a feminist perspective. For feminist perspective, the sisterhood is very important concept. Sisterhood we never talked about. Brotherhood is talked from centuries, but sisterhood, we always say women are enemies to women. Never the glory of sisterhood, how women, each woman can help other how in difficult times women can share their pains and sorrows and can help each other. That's never highlighted either in literature or in real life. So my main concept was that sisterhood I want to establish. So I took Sita as the main thread, and Surpanaka, Ahalya, Renuka, and Urmila. These 4 women helped Sita to take her final decision. Her final decision was to liberate from Rama. So, to liberate from Rama is not an easy task for Sita. But these women, from the beginning, Ahalya was introduced to Sita in my story by Rama himself. When they are talking after their wedding, Rama told that in the forest, along with Viswamitra, I killed so many demons. Then Sita asked, why always you are talking about killings and all that? Tell me something beautiful. Then he told, I saw one woman called Ahalya. She's very beautiful. But Viswamitra told that she is not a good woman. Then Sita thought, what means not a good woman? From then onwards, she is thinking about Ahalya. What is the story of Ahalya? Somehow he got to know it. He met Ahalya, and Ahalya disturbed her at the first meeting. Then Ahalya gave her peace when Sita was in Valmiki ashram. So that's how I weave that story. And Surpanaka. We always thought Surpanaka and Sita are enemies. But I depicted them as good friends. After in Valmiki ashrama, Sita got to know that some beautiful garden was grown up by a woman. Her sons told her. Who that woman? The sons told that that woman has no nose and ears. Then she suddenly remembered Surpanaka, and she went searching for Surpanaka, met her, and after hearing how Surpanaka struggled to come out of her agony, Surpanaka, a beautiful lady, I depicted her not as a demon. She is very beautiful, very nature-loving type. So, after meeting Surpanaka and hearing her struggle to come over the feeling of ugliness and understand the meaning of beauty and ugliness from nature itself, Sita was moved. And Surpanaka invited Sita, after your sons left you and went to their father, you come and be with me in this beautiful garden. Sita accepted that invitation. So, with that ending, that bond between women, that sisterhood between women, I want to explore. And also, can I take?
I was just wanting to say if you could highlight the Renuka, because the Renuka Devi.
Okay. Renuka, you all know Renuka's story. She is the wife of Jamadagni, mother of Parasurama. Jamadagni asked Parasurama to kill her because she distracted her view in seeing a man. And the sand pot she is making was broken. So Jamadagni asked Parasurama to kill, and Parasurama is about to kill, and then Jamadagni changed his mind and asked, then stop. Then Renuka understood the real meaning of wife and mother. What is wife what is the meaning of wife, what is the meaning of pativratya, what is the meaning of motherhood. This son is going to kill me, when his father asked. So how vulnerable a pativrata, a mother, would be. And he compared, in my story, she compared pativratya as a sand pot. It can break at any time with a slight interruption. So that then when Renuka met Sita, she explained this. Don't believe Sita. Sita was safely with Rama in the Aranya, in Aranyavasa, in the forest. So when she met Renuka, Renuka told, don't believe in Pativratyam and Matritvam, motherhood and Pativratyam, because they are like this sand pot. Sita didn't accept those words. Motherhood is very important, you know. For that, one should marry, and one should be loyal to her husband. Then Renuka told, we can have children without marriage, without husband also. And I am preaching that to these forest dwellers. Then Sita was shocked. Oh no, that is not good, you know. Why? You observe nature. In nature, there is nothing like marriage between any creature except human beings. But they are living happily. They are giving birth to their children. Why you concentrate on the civilization of the state where you come from? This civilization, the meaning of civilization was written in some books by some pandits. Don't believe them. Learn from nature. Nature is your true teacher. But Sita was not happy with those words, she left. But after Rama sent her to the Valmiki ashram, and she gave birth to 2 sons, and those 2 sons, after 8 or 10 years, asked her, Amma, who is our father? Then she remembered Renuka. Renuka told this, some time will come in some women's life that the children will ask, Amma, who is our father? Or the husband will ask, who is the father of these children? So, the marriage is not so valuable. You have to face these questions anyhow. Now Sita faced this question from her children. Who is our father? Then Sita told, without damaging Rama's respect in my stories, your father is a Kshatriya. His name is Saketa. He is doing some good work for the people, and sometime he will come back and receive you as his sons. So then, but Sita was so liberated from the concepts of motherhood and pativratya with the help of Renuka also.
Thank you so much. That was a brilliant arc of liberation. And a very progressive thinking in terms of Telugu versions. From a society, we tend to think from outside, which is very conservative. So thank you for giving us the insight from within of the sand pot, the broken pot, the fragmentation of those norms. Arshia, with Uttara, there are more questions to the answer of the questions. Right. Arshia, with Uttara, there are more answers to questions that have yet to be answered. So can I open that enigma of your work?
One of the things that I want to say, and I think it addresses your question, never fails to amaze me how a text like the Ramayana, which we think of as patriarchal, which it is, and misogynist, which it is, can actually spawn stories like the ones that Volga writes, you know? And there's a long, long tradition of rewriting Ramayana, telling the Ramayana in the way that you would like it written. And that's been happening for 2,500 years, for as long as we've known the Ramayana. And Valmiki is the first one. And actually, all my work is with Valmiki Ramayana, and if we actually read it, which very few of us do, we'll find that the seeds of this radicalism are actually in Valmiki itself. Because it's in Valmiki that she decides to go away. She says, I cannot live with you anymore. I cannot live with the man that you have become. And that makes it possible for feminist interpretations, for non-Brahmin interpretations, non-Kshatriya interpretations. That's the space where I feel that women like us, contemporary women, can actually enter the text, right? So this Uttara book, it's called Uttara, the Book of Answers. It's a sort of pun on the word Uttara because one of the many meanings of Uttara is answer. And what the last book of the Valmiki Ramayana, which is the Uttara Kanda, what it does is it provides answers to questions that we might ask. Like, if Hanuman was so clever, or if he was so special, how come he didn't know that he that he could, leap over the ocean? Well, Uttarakanda will tell you, because when he was young and he was given all those special powers, he became very mischievous, and he would disturb the rishis and the munis when they were doing their yajnas and sacrifices. So they cursed him to forget his powers. So like that, the Uttarakanda retells many of the stories that we find in the main body of Valmiki. And in retelling those stories, like with Volga, in retelling those stories, the politics of the text changes completely, and it becomes a text that is not really very kind to women. Because remember, at the end of Yuddhakanda, he knows Sita has been with Ravana. He takes her home. They have this wonderful reunion, triumphal return to Ayodhya, and it's later when the questions come. So there's some part of the Ramayana that thinks it's perfectly possible for a man to take back a wife who has, been abducted or lived in the house of another man. But another part of the Ramayana, the later part of the Ramayana, thinks this is unacceptable. Yeah? So I really think that it's because Valmiki is fundamentally radicalizable that we've been able to tell the story for as long as we have.
Is the version of the man or had not seen fit for a man to take his wife back after she has been away in another space, is that related? Because Arshia just pointed out to us these two streams of thought. One is it's perfectly viable for a man to take his wife back, as we see in Ramayana with this, returning to Ayodhya with Sita and in great pomp and glory. And then, of course, the Uttara actually deals with the aspect of, in a way, the banishment of Sita, because it seemed that a man should not take his wife back because she has been under the roof of another man. Is the second one related mostly to statecraft, or is there, another sort of reason behind it, or what could have triggered it, I'm thinking?
Well, in Uttarakanda, you can say that nothing happens because Rama is just sitting around and listening to these stories, and we're listening to the stories with him. But you can say also that everything happens in Uttarakanda. He kills Shambhuka, and he banishes his wife. And his brother dies, his beloved brother. Lakshmana puts himself in the place where he will get this curse of death. So three very important things have happened to Rama. Is the Uttarakanda about statecraft? I don't think it's about statecraft, because there are no discussions of Rajadharma. There are discussions of Rajadharma with Bharata, in the earlier books. But in Uttarakanda, Rama is king. He is the Ikshvaku monarch. He is no longer that sweet, gentle person who put flowers in his wife's hair in the forest. Something very fundamental has changed. And what has changed in Rama is he realizes he has to be the king. He may not want to be the king, But he has to be it. And the other thing that he says, I don't want people to say I'm like my father. Because his father, when he had to make a choice between his wife and his kingship, he chose to honor his boons to Kaikeyi. And Rama says, I can't do that again. Let it not be said that he is just like his father. The love of a woman made him weak. It's hard.
Very, very odd and interesting. I was just wondering, is this a good time to just share a few readings? And should we start with you?
I want to tell about the power relation. I want to tell about another concept I took in writing these stories, 5 minutes briefly. I want to share my thoughts on my text, that is these stories, as a discourse of power and the power of the discourse. We can interpret the power relations which are embedded in these stories, and how power manifests itself by what means it exercises. Take Surpanaka. Surpanaka thought beauty as her power. Her beauty was taken away from her. So, for some time she became powerless. But how she regained her power, how he struggled to regain to power over herself, is the interesting part of the story. And many of us understand Ramayana as the epic of war between Rama and Ravana. But I have seen it differently. Power itself is a war continued by other means, not only with swords and guns and all, not all though. A war continued by other means, unspoken warfare. That unspoken warfare within the internal which is internal for the characters, that I want to put forth in my stories. It is silent, secret war that reinscribe conflict in various social institutions, in cultures, economic inequalities, in languages, and in many issues, this power relation in the bodies of ourselves and each and every one of us. So, these stories are Ramayana stories, but they are very contemporary stories also. And the idea of power means the idea of discipline and punishment. And how one disciplines woman. How Surpanaka was disciplined and punished. How Ahalya was disciplined and punished. How Renuka was disciplined and punished. And how Sita was disciplined and punished. Where this power to discipline women and punish women came from? That is the question that bothers me very much, and I want to find answers in the contemporary women's lives and also from the characters of the great epic. So that power bothers me a lot. So the context is as old as Ramayana and as new as Nirbhaya. So this is so epic. And I want to tell one more thing about Ramayana. There are many Ramayanas.
Can I just respond to what you said about the discipline and punishment? All of these women were disciplined and punished for perceived sexual transgressions. You know, it's not because they didn't cook dinner on time, or, you know, they didn't have babies, or they forgot to say good morning to their mother-in-law. It's like, no, lady, you stepped across a marital line. And most of them, of course, hadn't. But they were certainly perceived as such, as doing so.
So the one difficult part I encountered while writing these stories were, I am interpreting the characters radically different, not different from the original Valmiki or Tulasi Ramayanas or Malla Ramayanas. So people should read and accept this thinking, radical thinking, or what feminist thinking. How to these women characters should cross the boundaries which were there in the original text. But this is a difficult task to make them cross those boundaries and to be accepted by the contemporary people. That was the difficult task I faced, and I think I succeed in that because people accepted these stories. When these stories appeared, there is lot of applause came, and no negativeness that she is distorting Rama, she is distorting Sita, nothing like that. Many people believed that this is what Valmiki wrote. And ask, if Valmiki wrote like this, we don't know. No, I wrote this, not Valmiki, I replied. But situations change, Last month, in December, I wrote about Mandodari. I wrote a new story about Mandodari, and that was published in a popular magazine, and I received calls which are very threatening. So when these stories were written in 2010 and 12, it's okay. But in 2016, the times changed, and we are very careful when we are writing these stories, I understood.
Thank you. Would you give us a little reading? Would you like to do that? Yeah? And then just requesting a reading, so.
I will read from the story of Ahalya, that is the music of the earth. Both Sita's name and Ahalya's name are noted with earth. So the story's name was Music of the Earth, and Sita and Ahalya met first time when Sita went to Vanavasa along with Rama. So Ahalya asked, "Have you heard about me?" "Yes, I have heard. My mother-in-law Kausalya told me the entire story." "How unjust," Sita said. "What is so unjust?" Ahalya asked matter-of-factly. "You were accused of a crime you did not commit," Sita said with sympathy. "Aren't many women in this world wrongly accused, Sita? But wasn't it outrageous in your case? After all, you did not know that he was not your husband. Do you know whether I knew this or not? Does anyone know?" Sita began to say something but stopped herself. She felt dazed. Recovering, she asked hesitantly, "You mean you knew?" "That question has no meaning, Sita," Ahalya laughed. "But then, what is the truth? If there is something called truth, wouldn't that have a meaning?" Sita was surprised and full of curiosity. Each one to their own truth. Does anyone in this world have the power to decide between truth and untruth? Looking at the mix of confusion and innocence on Sita's face, Ahalya took pity on her. "Sita, I know it is difficult to understand. I don't know why my story was told to you and how it was narrated. Indra lusted after me. Like everyone else, he too looked at women as if they are meant for men's enjoyment. Knowing that I would not surrender to his desire, he came in the hours of darkness in the guise of my husband. Did I see through his disguise? That is the question that bothers many people in the world. But to my husband, the question was irrelevant. It was the same to him either way. His property, even if temporarily, had fallen into the hands of another. It was polluted. Pollution, cleanliness, purity, impurity, honor, dishonor. Brahmin men have invested these words with such power that there is no scope in them for truth and untruth, no distinction. Ahalya stopped. Then Sita told that Rama was not like that. I can't stay without him even for a day, neither can he without me. He is unlike other men, Sita said shyly. All men are the same, Sita, especially in the matter of their wives, Ahalya told. My husband is not such a person. He will inquire into truth and untruth, Sita told. But he does inquire. But he does inquire, doesn't he? Ahalya said sarcastically. Meaning, what does conducting an inquiry imply? What does conducting an inquiry imply, Sita? Distrust, isn't it? Wouldn't it be better instead to believe in either your innocence or guilt? Sita's mind was vexed. Now Sita can't bear this. She is, after all, very young, without any experience, just came from Ayodhya. So these questions bothered her then. But after Rama asked her Agni Pariksha, the test, then all Ahalya's words, when Lakshmana says, Sri Ramachandra wants you to undergo a chastity test, sister-in-law, Lakshmana said. So the image of Ahalya flashed across Sita's mind. What does conducting an inquiry mean, Sita? Distrust, isn't it? Would it be better instead to believe on either your innocence or guilt? All men are same, Sita. Did Ahalya know it would turn out like this? Sita wondered. War is for demonstration. So Rama did all this war for Sita. Now he is asking for Agni Pariksha. War is for demonstrating the valor of men. Rama has proved his heroism. He was awaiting to demonstration of his wife's chastity. Isn't this what Ahalya called distrust? Wouldn't accepting her in trust or rejecting her in distrust be better? What should be done now? Sita's heart was like volcano. Then after that, she decided to go through the test, and then went. After going to Ayodhya also, when Kausalya hugged Sita and told, my daughter-in-law was pure. He is chaste and like that. Sita's heart was in fire. So my mother-in-law Kausalya, in her mind, discussed whether I am chaste or not, and decided that I am chaste. Kausalya first told about Ahalya to Sita. Then also she told, all men are talking like this, but Ahalya was very good woman. So she told about Ahalya like that. She told about me. Does she believe or not? What is truth? about Kausalya's discussions. So Ahalya told, which will give peace to your mind is truth to you. So for Kausalya's mind, to believe in her daughter's chastity is giving peace. So she is all these questions came to Sita's mind, and she was not at peace. Then after in Valmiki Ashrama, she met Ahalya, and Ahalya cleared many doubts of Sita and gave some peace to Sita's mind and prepared her for a peaceful delivery of the two boys.
Okay. Thank you. Arshia, in your fantastic introduction to Uttara, you talk about, Uttara is like, for every storyteller, it's a way of asking the questions the reader, the listener, the spectator wants to have asked of the entire epic after they have listened or seen. So it's wonderful that it is in this narrative form. There's something that caught my attention was this thing about it is a psychological, pre-psychology time, insight into the characters and how they work out their relationships and so on. But there's something which you pointed out about predictions and curses, and I think I'm coming now to, in a way, the structure of writing or creating a story, and how does Valmiki place that? Could you elaborate on that in Uttara?
Well, you know, it is an epic, so it conforms to various structures and genre considerations that an epic must have. And there are boons and curses, which are a very important way that the story moves forward, or you want to change the trajectory of the story, and suddenly there's a boon or there's a curse. Yeah, but you know, one of the most beautiful moments for me in Ramayana, the Agni Pravesham, the Agni Pariksha, the gods, you know, Sita says to Lakshmana, build a fire, I will walk into it, when she's accused by her husband of, you know, she needs to prove her chastity. He doesn't accuse her. In fact, he says an incredible thing to her in Valmiki Ramayana. He says, I fought this war to establish my family's honor and my honor. He said, I have no use for you, Sita. You can go where you want. Go to Lakshmana, go to Bharata, go to Shatrughna, go to Sugriva, go even to Vibhishana, right? And she's just horrified that she has to hear this. And so, you know, she walks into the fire, and all the gods appear, and they return her to Rama, and they say, what were you thinking? What were you doing? How could somebody like you do this to Sita? And he says, but I'm just an ordinary man. Who am I? Why am I here? And they say, oh, Rama, you are God, you are Vishnu, you are Dittadhama, you are the sun, you are the moon. And I think that in terms of, you know, how myth and epic is structured, this is one of the most powerful moments of divine intervention. You know, when the gods come and look at him and say, you too are God. And he's like, oh. And then, of course, he goes back, and in the Uttara Kanda, he becomes a very, very different person, because for the first time, he is aware of his divinity, and it is a ghastly, ghastly burden. He doesn't carry his divinity with the aplomb that Krishna does, for example. Actually, you know, it just struck me as very good, because parallel to this session is a session with the RSS gentlemen, so they won't come here and shout at us. We're very safe. I mean, we can actually say these things.
It was planned. But I wondered if you could share with us a little moment that you wanted to read from the Uttara, to sample that.
I'm going to read, unfortunately, the lovely part that I just told you about is not in Uttara Kanda, so it's in my other book, not in this book. But I'll read the moment where Sita is taken into the forest by Lakshmana. Rama has just heard the town gossip that people say, oh, you know, people are talking about your wife like this. And so he calls his brothers together and he says, look, I've made a decision and I don't want you to argue with me. I don't like it when people argue with me. I'm the king's, but you must never speak to me about this again. And he says to Lakshmana, Sita had wanted to go into the forest to visit her friends, the sages' wives. So tell her that that's where she's going, and when you get there, just leave her there, right? And of course, don't forget that Sita is pregnant. Sita was filled with immense joy and she made preparations to leave. She quickly picked up all kinds of clothes and ornaments and jewels and was ready to depart. I will give these ornaments to the sages' wives, she said, as Lakshmana helped her climb into the chariot. Remembering Rama's instructions, he drove away quickly. Sita said to Lakshmana, the increaser of prosperity, joy of the Raghus, I see a number of bad omens today. My right eye twitches and my limbs tremble. Son of Sumitra, even my heart seems ill at ease. I feel a great anxiety and an immense unsteadiness. I see a vast emptiness in the world, large-eyed one. I hope all is well with your brother and with his brothers, and I hope all is especially well with my mothers-in-law and with all beings in the city as well as all in the countryside. She entreated the gods with her palms placed together. Lakshmana bowed his head when he heard Sita's prayer. Everything is well, he said, but his heart contracted. They reached the banks of the Gomati and stayed in a hermitage there. In the morning, Lakshmana rose and said to the charioteer, harness the chariot quickly. Today I will touch the waters of the Ganga with my head, as did Shiva, the pervader of the three worlds. Blah, blah, blah. At his word, Sita mounted the chariot along with Lakshmana and the wise Sumantra. At midday, they reached the waters of the Bhagirathi, and Lakshmana, who was in poor spirits, began to cry audibly when he saw them. Sita, who knew Dharma, saw Lakshmana's great distress, and she asked cautiously, why are you crying? We have reached the banks of the Ganga. My long-standing wish has been fulfilled. This is a time of happiness. Why do you grieve, Lakshmana? Bull among men, you are always in Rama's presence. Why are you overcome with happiness after only 2 days away from him? Rama is dear to me too, as dear as my own life. But I'm not grieving like you. Don't be a child. Take me across the Ganga so that I can see the sages. I will give them these clothes and ornaments and jewels. I will honor those great sages as they deserve. We shall spend one night here and then return to the city. Lakshmana listened to Sita. He wiped his beautiful eyes and called for the boats to cross the river. And I'll just read just a little bit more by you. When they reached the far shore of the Ganga, Lakshmana joined his palms and spoke to Sita, his voice thick with tears. He says, a massive spear has pierced my heart, Sita, for the wise and noble Rama has asked me to do something that will make me notorious in the worlds for all time. It would be better to be dead. Death would be far better than the act that I must perform today, an act that will never be forgiven by the world. Forgive me, my virtuous lady. Do not be angry with me. And Lakshmana fell to the ground. So just, it's the deceit of both these men, they're both lying to her. And she's thinking, I'm going to meet my friends, I'm taking all these presents for them and all that. But Lakshmana, at least, his heart breaks, so.
Yeah, he's really conscientized at the end. We're nearly ready for questions, but I just want to also fold this, our part of the thing, with saying the importance of story and the importance of the idea behind those stories and why they have to be carried on with interpretations, new meanings, and so on. So I just, if you don't mind, if you can indulge me for 40 seconds, I'd like to just take you to that moment of the Ashwamedha when the boys, the sons of Rama, which he doesn't know, or he doesn't know them, they question him. Who do you think you are? It's very important to hear our own story from another mouth, and that recognition is a very important part of the whole Ramayana. But that recognition of that story comes from Sita to her sons. So I'm just sharing a little moment with you. Sita stood still in the dark without breathing. Rama could not have been aware of her. Valmiki or Urmila sheltering in the cavernous shade of the tall trees. And who, may I ask, are you? Said Rama. Lava began. I was born at the first stroke of that hour past midnight when darkness moves towards daylight. They said of my birth that Brahma visited and wrote his name on my forehead. I cannot take this as praise, as I am a guest of those who brought me into the world, bloody, screaming, and fighting on a full moon night. My lessons stood for my father, and my teacher gave me a world where I could learn to read with my breath, my tongue, my eyes, my inner eyes, my touch, taste, and smell. My teacher's teacher taught me how to shape friendship from anger, peace from haste, going slow while traveling with speed, learning silence from the dance of the trees, and singing with the insects to test an opinion. My closest companion is here, my brother, Kusa, and his heartbeat and mine are one. My mother is spirit and earth. Her eyes shine like stars, and when she left her girlhood, she carried that light into her husband's home. My father, from her account, was a man who embodied compassion, and truth was the one jewel he wore when he lived a life of prosperity. When fortune's wayward winds began to blow, my father held on to truth as an anchor in the stormy sea of unimaginable events. My mother did not just witness his misfortune, but decided to travel with him and give him courage. After all, she often said, what is the point of love if it cannot weather all seasons? And that Rama begins to ask himself the question, because it dawns on him, these unnamed people seem to resemble something in his life. And that's why the story is very important. I'll close on that but. This is your time for questions. Oh my God. Okay. May I take this lady? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. This question is to you, ma'am. The thing is that I was listening to you when you were saying that this is your story and this is not Valmiki's story, and how you were threatened for a few plays. Do you think there was some anger or compassion in the Valmiki story which you were able to explore and build a foundation on that?
Yeah, definitely. Without Valmiki, I cannot write these stories. Valmiki is more important, but in Valmiki Ramayana, Sita and Surpanaka never met. So if somebody asks, is Valmiki wrote that meeting between Surpanaka and Sita? I said, no, that is not Valmiki's story, that is my story. I imagined it in my own way. That is the, but Valmiki is a great writer, and without that original beautiful text, all these interpretations we could not make.
Yes, this gentleman with the glass. You, yeah.
Hi. I don't have a question, but I just want to say that how much thankful I am for the session, because you are more modern than the modern I know. Your exterior is so humble, but you think so rebelliously. You've covered from Ahilya to Nirbhaya in one stroke, and such beautiful paragraphs that you wrote and spoke about. I must say you're an example of what the current youth should be. Thank you.
Yeah. I would request you to go a step further as he suggested. You all are are radical. You have brought out Sita as a dynamic character, which Valmiki hasn't. But I'd like you to look at Urmila as well. I think her tragedy is much more than Sita's. And why couldn't Urmila ask Lakshman to prove his virginity? After all, he was away for 14 years. How does she know he was a virgin?
I didn't. I wrote a story about Urmila in this text. That is the main story, but I couldn't have time to tell. Urmila, we all believe that she slept for 14 years. But for 14 years, she is exploring about the concept of power. So first, she began it as Agraha, very angry, very angry. She wanted to revolt on the Antapura. But slowly that anger she turned into Satyagraha. Agraha into Satyagraha, and he searched about the truth of relations between people and how that relations have the chemistry and how the relations were operated by power. So she revealed great truth to Sita. Sita, you have to take power into your hands, but you shouldn't operate that power on others. You have to you have to be empowered, but don't dominate others with your power. So power is very tricky thing. When we are powerful, we want to operate it immediately on others with our anything which we are powerful with. So Urmila was the key role in liberating Sita from Rama. Sita, you take your life into your hands, liberate from Rama. So Sita liberated from Rama, but Rama was imprisoned to the kingdom. He is the imprisoner and Sita is the liberated person. And that was the whole concept of this story.
Arshia, you wanted to respond to that question? No, okay.
Oh, you want my response also? Lots of people write about Urmila. In fact, there's a Malayalam play from the 1960s. It's called Kantana Sita. And in that, when they come back from exile, Urmila accuses Rama of destroying her life. She said, what, you took my husband and went away. How funny is this, right? And Lakshmana, she says, don't come to me now. You didn't think of me for all this time, so I don't want anything. So Urmila is a very attractive character precisely because we know that she suffers and she never speaks in Ramayana. Don't worry, lots of us are thinking of Urmila. Yeah. Sorry? Well, I'm a translator, so I can't, sadly,
Okay.
I'm bound.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I have to really wind this. One more question, I'm told, after I've been told I have to wind the session up. Yeah. Okay. Can I close now? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your enthusiasm and your excitement, but please, I want you to go to the bookstores, and we have The Liberation of Sita. Please hold your books up. We have Uttara, the Book of Answers, and Sita's Ascent to continue the discussion, and thank you very, very much.
A huge thanks to all our speakers, and the authors would be moving to the book signing area to sign their books on your left near Better.